Welcome to another episode of A Second Coming. I'm here with Brother T, and I'm your host, Jason Keaton. How's it going this week, Brother T?
It's going very well. It's going very well. I am very excited to be back on the podcast here with another episode of True Thought. It's a highlight of my day and one of the highlights of my week as well.
Absolutely. I am so grateful for you, Brother T, and for all of our viewers and everyone that is vibing with us today. So welcome.
Good stuff.
So, yeah, Brother T,
what's
I
going
wanted
on with
to talk.
You want to share a little bit about what's going on with you?
Full fall here now. I'm up in Ohio, and I love this time of year though. Keep the windows open all night and it cools down. You got to cover up with 3 blankets, and by middle of the afternoon the sun's shining, and out in shorts and a long sleeve shirt or something. It's a beautiful time, just out, friends and family, walk my dog, and it's favorite time of the year, really.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Well, Jason, if you don't mind, I know usually you have a question for me, but I'd like to kind of turn the tables a little bit today for our community and our audience, and for myself as well. I've heard your story. You shared your story. You and I have had some wonderful conversations, in-person conversations over the years, and we've been knowing each other now for quite some time. But it's been a while since you've shared your story with me, and I know that you actually have grown spiritually as well since you had that story. So I don't want to give anything away. I just like to let the audience know that Mr. Keaton here had a unique spiritual experience, a peak experience, I like to call them, and this goes back a few years. And so I'm just going to get out of the way here, Jason, and let you share your story, man. Tell us about what you went through and how you ended up having a spiritual experience that began to change your life.
Oh, absolutely, Brother T. Thank you, by the way. Thank you. I'm grateful for and honored to have the tables flipped a little bit. So I have stage 4 cancer, and I've had stage 4 cancer for a while. I'll bring us back, going back 9 years now. 2015, I was going through a nasty divorce. My divorce, I was holding so much anger that it started causing me to be sick. And I would go in, and the doctors would do a small surgery to try and get a hold of the cancer or head of it. And the cancer would just keep spreading, and I was angry, going through the divorce, lost my job, bankruptcy. My world was just really crumbling, and I was dying of cancer. In December 2016, there was a last hope that they went in and they took out 17 cancerous tumors out of my liver. And they said, even with chemotherapy, the chance of living more than a year was not likely, especially when you read the facts and the stories of these different chemotherapies. A lot of the times the cause of death was chemotherapy. And I'm not against chemotherapy at all. That's not what the point of this message is. The point of this message is I was facing death of my human body. And I did that surgery, and I realized a couple things. I realized that if I was going to get healthy, I needed to forgive. And I truly needed to forgive. And that powerful forgiveness is why I'm here today. And choosing love over hatred, and choosing love over fear, and choosing forgiveness is truly why I'm here today. And I had a couple life-changing experiences, but the one that people love to hear about is I was laying in bed, recovered from surgery, and I was meditating. And I wasn't on any pain medicines anymore, but I was spending a lot of time in bed healing. And I started meditating. It was about 3 a.m. and meditating and focusing on my breath. And all of a sudden, I saw my breath start leaving my body. And with each breath, this cloud, this purple cloud, got bigger and bigger. And pretty soon it was about the size of a king size bed that I was on. And then I heard a voice, and it was my voice. And the voice said, "Can you see? This body is not you. You don't even fit inside this body." And as I observed this cloud, and then all of a sudden I was looking down at my body, and the body looked sick and frail and old. And I looked at that and I thought, why do I even want to be in that body? But I asked to stay for egoic reasons of, loving my 4 daughters and wanting to be here. I don't know why I got to choose, but my voice said, "You can stay, but I want to show you something first." And I was immediately taken to where I call the source. And the source was amazing. It was like a dark purple surroundings filled with love, in this ball of golden white energy with particles flowing in and out of it consistently. And time ceases to exist, and there was no sound. And it was the first time in my human life that I realized that time was a human constraint. I could have been there for 1 second or 1,000 years, and it wouldn't have mattered. I was there only long enough until I realized what I was looking at. I was looking at what I call the source, the God particles, the source of all. And as soon as I understood that, I was back in my body, breathing, and watching this purple cloud come in and out. And I was fully awake and I had full energy. I was just filled with spirit. And then I pictured these loving hands of God cupping me. And I didn't physically get lifted, but I visualized these hands holding me. And it said, "You are healed." And I had my friend laying next to me, and I woke her up, and she leapt out of bed and turned on the light. And she said, "What is that?" She couldn't see the cloud that was still coming in that I was seeing, but she could feel it. She could feel the energy. And when I was finished, it ended very quickly after that with all the stimulus and everything. I had a scar or an incision for about 14 inches long from my sternum all the way down into my past my belly button. And I had so much energy, that energy of God. I jumped out of bed and I lifted my shirt to see if it was all a dream. It was miraculously the energy that I had felt from that experience. And I wasn't the type of person before that would believe something like that. And I was scared to tell my story because I thought people would think I was weird. But one morning I went to have breakfast with a Catholic priest that I had a lot of respect for. And I opened up and I told him about my experience that had happened a few weeks prior to that. And he looked across to me and he said, "Not only is that experience not weird," but he said it was actually so common that 100 years ago, the Catholic Church commissioned an author and a biographer by the name of Otto to research this. And what he found was so similar to what I had experienced. It's a place where time ceases to exist that is bigger than any religion. What I call the source, he called the holy, or the idea of the holy. And I took that information empowered with the love of God, and I had the opportunity to travel through the US for over a year, and traveled in an RV, and often I would coordinate with a spiritual center, and the minister would let me talk for 5 or 10 minutes. And what was even more amazing is every time I gave one of those talks about forgiveness and love and the healing power in my experience, every single place, I went to over 50 spiritual centers. Every single time there was 1 to 4 people that came up to me, and they said they either had that type of experience, or they were recently diagnosed with cancer and didn't know why they were called to come to the spiritual center that day, but they heard my message of healing and of forgiveness and of love, and they knew. And the energy and emotion that it still gives me to this day it gives me chills still to tell that story and to be able to share that story. It's changed my life for sure. And I'm still human. I still make mistakes. I still argue with a girlfriend that I love and feel bad about it, and I yell at my kids when I probably could have said it to them quiet. I'm still human. But this God energy and having the opportunity to see and experience that, and now share this message with you of love, I'm eternally grateful for. And I'm grateful for this opportunity to host a second coming with you, Brother T. And I'm grateful that you turned the tables and let me share my story today. So thank you. I got intense there. I was feeling it. I was feeling it, Brother T. So I don't know. That's craziest thing about it is, I don't know why. I had a neighbor a year or two ago, and she was dying of cancer, and she wanted that energy, and she had young kids and wanted to stay. And I don't have any answers. I don't why me, that often comes up. I don't know. I just I'm grateful, and I live with love, and I'll leave it at that. I feel now I'm rambling.
Well, it's a great honor for us to share your story with you, Jason. Thank you so much for having the courage, to share it. A lot of people, I think, do have peak experiences of spiritual connection, and think that they might be thought of as weird and don't share it as much as they can, or should maybe. But I'll share a few thoughts with you and the audience, if you'll allow me to do that, about my thoughts. As you're sharing your story again today. And again, I feel honored, and I really appreciate that you're sharing the story. Would you like me to just discuss a little bit of things that came up about it for me?
Absolutely. I would love your enlightenment on it and discussions around it. Anything. Mike is yours, Brother T.
Okay. Okay. Well, first and foremost, as long as we're in the body, we're going to continue, no matter how enlightened we become. You can become completely enlightened, I should say, like Jesus, as Christ. You can become in that consciousness level of Christ consciousness, which is ultimately the goal that we're all here to do, actually. And more people and more are experiencing. I agree with your minister that more and more people are experiencing these peak experiences and those kinds of things. But as long as we're in form, even as Christ, we're still going to be in the body. We're still going to experience things in form. We're still going to have to wash the dishes, and there's I think a Buddhist saying something about, chop wood and carry water before enlightenment, after enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. You still have a body, and you're still, as you said, human. But the big difference is that it is to me, in fact, at least, it's a journey of ascension. It's not a beat down of ascension. It's like, you get slammed. I mean, there are some people that, come to mind, Eckhart Tolle and some others that have had kind of that experience where they just kind of went to the bottom of the barrel, so to speak, in their personal life, their egoic life. And I think Eckhart shared, like, the last thing the ego was saying, okay, well, you can take your life, you can kill yourself. And it's like, wait a minute, who is that? What is the voice that's saying that I can kill myself? And that's when he had his breakthrough of enlightenment, his revelation of enlightenment. But I think for most of us, it really comes from doing some work, working on our mind, working on our experience here in form, learning what we can and letting go and surrendering the conditioning of the world. And for others, and I really feel, if I'm just going to tell you what I'm getting is that, you just have a lot of work to do yet, Jason. You have an amazing story, and the turnaround, the transformation that you've had in your life since that experience. You were telling us that, you were experiencing a lot of anger and frustration and fear about your financial situation, and all those things were happening. But after that experience, you and I actually had some conversation as well early on, and you had a huge transformation, right? You had that shift of perception that we call a miracle, and it is, in fact, and indeed, a miracle, and it's amazing. So I just wanted to share that, and the other thing that I just wanted to share is that, that we all are in this process, and people do. From what I understand, this is part of what I've learned from Kryon. We were talking about Kryon last week, as one of those guides, the magnetic master. And, one of the things that he'd been sharing is, that we're just taking little steps as we go forth in our ascension, but we have to let go of things, but that we're making contracts with each other before we even come into the incarnation to set up certain things. So we look at those life situations like, well, divorce and bankruptcy and those kinds of things, and they can be devastating. Just a couple of weeks ago, there was a tremendous hurricane that came through, Hurricane Helena, that came through in the Gulf Coast and almost the entire the east coast of Florida, even part of the West Coast, in Jacksonville, and then Northeast in Georgia, the Carolinas, even Tennessee, and Virginia got a little bit of impact from that hurricane. People lost homes. People lost their livelihoods. The whole towns, in some cases, literally almost disappeared overnight. Vehicles are destroyed, everything. And there was for a while, there was no cell phones. There were no cell towers. There was no electricity. And in some cases, there's still not electricity in some of those places or those kinds of situations. So we asked ourselves, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Well, there is no loss in God. Let me say that. God is. There's no loss in God. This journey that we're on, this continuous reincarnating here in form, is because we came here with a purpose. And when we begin to understand that purpose, which is to, number one, awaken from the illusion of separation. And that's a huge deal, right? So you had an experience of union. You had an experience of oneness in the story that you shared today.
Yes.
And the other thing I want to say is that those things are set up by our soul, because our soul has things that it's attempting to learn and grow through so that it can become, as Jesus did. When you see me, you see the Father. In other words, he became God in form, which is what we call Christ. So as we all move towards that, some, like Jesus, look to be a step or two ahead of us, and some of us are a step ahead of maybe a few others, but the entire population of humanity on this planet eventually will become enlightened.
Mm.
That will be what's happening here. Is this is going to end up becoming like the kingdom of heaven on earth, right?
Yes.
Because we're the ones that are creating this. It's not happening to us. It's happening
Right.
through us. And it's because our soul is what's maturing. And some of those things that seem to be completely devastating are the exact things that our soul kind of sets us up, and exactly the things that we needed to be ready to receive a revelation, to be ready to be joined with Spirit, to be ready to be expressing and learning and start picking up books like A Course in Miracles or whatever it may be, or being able to see more truth in the Bible, as an example. Whatever it may be is what is we're being set up by our own self. We're creating our own experience. So it's the letting go of all the material and the comfort that those things bring that shakes us loose from that foundation of kind of being stuck. And that doesn't make it easy. A lot of people approach spirituality and think that, it's kumbaya, we're going to dance around the campfire, you're never going to be sick again, no, your karma is still there. We still experience some experiences, but the point is, as we evolve consciously, our soul is what's maturing, and eventually we do elevate and ascend to the point of being as Christ. And so in the way of mastery, Jesus says it this way, as an admonition as well as an attunement. He says, as Christ, in perfect safety, I release all tension. Now, no matter what's going on the outside, as Christ, in perfect safety, I surrender my mind into the perfect peace of God, right? I allow myself to let go of this thinking of loss and this thinking of fear and this thinking of blame and this thinking of guilt and this thinking of not enoughness or of loss. Because when I surrender my soul, my thinking to my soul, I should say, when I surrender to that energy of love, I can begin to realize that no matter what, I'm still here, and I can still be loving, and I can still grow, and I can still learn, and I can still do what I need to do, and my soul would have me do, to advance toward the experience of being love in form, God in form, Christ on earth. So that's what was coming through for me, and I'll just leave it at that. But I really am inspired by your story, Jason.
Well, thank you so much, Brother T, for allowing me to share and take the spotlight for a second and let my soul talk. And
well, it's a beautiful story, and I hope you'll continue sharing it. And
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of people are inspired this morning by what you've shared. I know I am, and I really love you, brother. I really do.
Well, thank you, Brother T, and thank you all for listening to my story. And for those of you that are just tuning in, usually it's Brother T that is, shedding the enlightenment and spreading the wisdom and the love. So it was enjoyable for me, Jason Keaton, the host. Brother T, he's here every week. So both of us will see you next week on another episode of The Second Coming.
Indeed we will. God bless you. Have a great week.
God bless you.
Bye-bye.